digits of the caller's phone number. You will hear an automated announcement that the host is allowing you to speak. When speaking, please move to a quiet area and mute any television or background sounds. The commissioners will then discuss the application and make a motion. A majority of commissioners present will be required for a certificate of appropriateness to be granted. Ms. Thatcher, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Calderon.
Here.
Commissioner Fortner.
Here.
Commissioner Ross.
Present.
Commissioner Kaplan.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
I'm present.
Commissioner Rockland, you have a quorum.
Okay. Moving to item C on the agenda, approval of agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes to be made to tonight's agenda? Okay, hearing and seeing no objection, the agenda is approved as presented. Public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to speak to the Historic District Commission for up to 3 minutes about an issue that is not listed as a public hearing on this agenda. We will first call on individuals present to address the board, then remote participants. To speak during this public hearing remotely, press star 9 if listening by phone, or use the raise hand feature if viewing through the web link. For phone access, call 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 965-3669-9762. For either method of participation, please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. Is there anyone present who would like to make a public comment? Any remote
There are
callers?
none.
Okay, we will go on to item E, unfinished business. I don't believe there is any unfinished business. So we will move to our public hearings. Ms. Thatcher, will you please give the staff report?
Certainly. Oops. Did not mean to do that. There it goes. This application is for 553 South First Street. It's a large clapboard vernacular-style house that features stuccoed half-timbering in both the main front gable and the smaller gable above the porch steps. Other details include wide plain barge boards on the gables, exposed rafter ends, Doric-style porch columns, with a front porch that extends across the entire facade. There are 2 front doors, the original with a large single pane, that's the one that will be on the right, and a later one to the left with 12 panes. The house was occupied in 1910 by Theodore Trost, the principal of Bethlehem German Evangelical School, and his wife Louise. It remained in that family until 1936. In 1991, then owners received HDC approval to replace the door on the left with a wood double-hung window, and were able at that time to provide ample evidence that this window would be a restoration. That application is attached to the staff report. In 1999, an application was approved to replace the second door with either a window or infill and siding, and none of that work was ever undertaken, so we still have 2 front doors. The house is on the east side of South First Street between West Jefferson and West Madison, and it is in the Old West Side Historic District. The applicant is seeking HDC approval to construct a 52-square-foot rear addition with an expanded balcony on top, replace the door to the balcony, infill one of 2 front doors and replace the remaining door, remove an exhaust fan in the attic in the rear gable and replace it with a circular window, infill a second-floor rear window and install a new window nearby, infill a basement window under the front porch, install a backyard patio, and construct 2 new accessory structures, one for a garage and one for an accessory dwelling unit. So we have a lot of little changes and a couple of larger ones. So walking around the house, this is the front. This is looking, so this tree, for perspective, is this tree in the backyard. This is the south side of the site. These houses are facing Madison Street or Mosley Street. Madison or Mosley? Madison, it's Madison. Yeah. Here's the back of the house. You can see that there's a room on the back. It's a single story. It's just a little bit bigger than what I would call a bump out, but it used to be a room. There's a piece of siding trim here that probably demarcates the previous end of this room. And this was a one-story room, and this was a porch, a covered porch. At some point, this half of this room got enclosed to make one larger room. And probably at that same time, I suspect that there would have been a window up here that was changed into a door, because it wouldn't have been typical to have a door opening up onto the roof of a porch, of a covered porch. It's possible, but it's not likely. Let's see, so now we've got one room in the back. You can see there's an existing patio in the back that would be replaced. These are some photos looking toward the back of the lot. Part of the proposal is to put a new garage over here somewhere, and behind it to put an accessory dwelling unit. They're very nearly the same size, one story, so they'll be, when you're looking down the driveway, they'll be in tandem, so you'll really only see the garage that's in the front. This is another view of this is the back corner where the garage would go. You can see that the neighbors have a large barn / garage / living space in this structure next door. And this is the neighbor's new fence. Another view of the backyard. It's one of those great original city lots that are wide and deep and very spacious in the back. In the back of the house, this vent up here is proposed to be replaced with a circular window. The applicants and architects do not know, the owners and architects do not know what this material is. It's not standard stucco, but it's not proposed to be changed at all. I do really suspect that this half timbering was either added later or, I don't know, maybe it's just a super vernacular house, but it looks like a later add-on than typical half timbering. But again, there are a lot of things going on here, and we don't know when, so we sort of assume that it's been there since the period of significance, since we have no other evidence. Part of the application is to replace this bathroom window with a different, slightly larger window. I'll show you that in a minute. This room on the back would be bumped out, and by not very much. I'll show you that in a minute. It's another view from the other end. This would have been the porch, so this window is not original, nor is this any of this siding. And that work was done. Outside of the period of significance, per sandboard maps. Note this door on the side by the driveway. We'll get to that. And this is the view from the driveway, looking toward the backyard where the garage will go. Okay, here are the two front doors. The one on the right is the original opening. The one on the left, you can see it's a little bit narrower. And if you look really closely, you can see up here where there used to be a window that was sort of cut into this wide board trim up here, and that was infilled when they took the window out, put this second door in. The house was a duplex for a while, and it's no longer a duplex, and that's why everyone's been talking about removing one of these doors. And since this is the non-original opening, that is the one that would be appropriate to remove. So here's the site plan of things going on. Let's see, this is that bump on the back with the door leading out onto its roof, and it is proposed to be expanded straight back just a little bit. Here's the new proposed single-car garage. Here's the new proposed accessory dwelling unit. Again, we don't care what they're used for. We're really just looking for structural compatibility with the neighbors and the lot and everything else. This is a good illustration to show that there's a big accessory structure here, that barn / living space, and there are two more garages here. So, and there's another one here. So there's not going to be a view of this from other people's houses until you get all the way to these backyards on Madison. These folks should have very little impact on their enjoyment of their yards. So here's the 1939 sandboard map. It shows that one-story addition on the back, and this dash part is that covered porch that got enclosed at some point. Okay, existing ground floor, first floor. This is a mudroom on the back with a little half bath. The proposal is to, you can see here's where the old wall, here's where the current wall is, bump it out just like 3 feet, and the whole width of it, and rework the powder room, make this a laundry and a different style of entry mudroom. And then they're also going to be doing some work on the interior that's really not part of this application. Existing second floor, you can see this deck on the back. It's pretty shallow. It's less than 5 feet deep. And here now it's a slightly deeper, more usable 8 by 16 foot roof deck. Existing third floor plan. This must be the attic. There's that window in the back gable. And this is just internal rearrangement of things that are already there. Existing basement floor plan and basement showing that wall moved back a little. Okay, here's the back of the house existing. Here is the work that's proposed. Up top, we've got a round window where that attic vent is right now. It's a mechanical vent fan. I'm not crazy about adding round windows because they're typically an Italianate feature of houses that are older than this house. But this is not a typical place to put one of those Italianate windows. It would be right here. It would be right centered in the middle of the gable in the attic. And I think that by putting it above the existing attic window, I think it will appear to be a non-original window, and it will be a non-original window. I don't think it'll confuse the historic record to have it that high up in the gable in a very unusual spot. You can see that here's a window that would be in the bathroom that would be removed and replaced with a 1/1 window. There's a new door here, since we assume that the door that was there was probably installed when they did the remodel of this room on the back. That was sometime after 1944. We've got a new back door, I'll get to that in a second, on the newly expanded rear wing. These are existing windows. No other window changes from this view. These guys are new because this wall is being rebuilt. Existing north elevation. So this door would just be simply fixed in place and presumably walled over from the inside. Sorry, I'm just making sure I didn't miss anything. This window that's existing on the back would be slid over. There was a nice photograph of that one that I already showed you. We've got a new rail and guardrail on a little deck, little stoop on the back with some lattice skirting. Looks like the trim is composite back here. It's all that is in the back of the house, so I'm not concerned about it. I know that the architects went to some pains to include information on the existing window trim sizes in the packet and to vary them so that they're not exactly matching. Here's the front of the house. We've got the original door opening on the right. They're proposing to replace the current door, which is not an original door, with an oval-shaped door, which is an appropriate style for the house. And there is a letter that was included in a previous HDC application where a previous occupant of the house testified in writing that there was a oval window here in this door originally. So we don't know exactly what that looks like, but the proposed door that you'll see in a second is fine. South elevation. Oops. So this is the original back corner of this wing of the house. So they have indented, well, we can see this better in plan view. This, it's fairly minimal, but it's distinct. And they're using it to put their downspout down, which is kind of clever. So it'll be recessed back into the wall there. All right, now we're moving on to the garage and the ADU. You can see that this is the end of the driveway. Right now it stops short of here, but there's there's no reason it can't go a little bit farther. There are no big trees in the way back here. Garage elevations, this is the front. It has a clope roll-up overhead door, person door on the south elevation, which leads into the backyard, and the other elevations are have no openings. This is the ADU, which is a similar design. We've got a round window up here, doors. These are casement windows that are made to look like double hung windows or 1/1 windows so that they can meet egress requirements. Has a cute little awning and a couple of structural brackets to hold it up. This is the north side. Let a little bit of light in there, and this is facing the garage. Okay, just a few more pictures that were in the application. This is from way back in the corner of the yard. Back here is where the ADU will be, with the garage in front of it. Here's another view. There's a patio proposed on the site plan that basically connects the new stoop on the back over to the driveway and the garage. Custom wood front door with beveled glass in that oval design. This is the new rear balcony door. Single light. It's a more modern but certainly compatible style. The mudroom door on the back of the addition, it does have a prairie style mutton pattern and obscured glass. Again, it's on the back. I think that that's fine. If this were a front door, I don't think that this style would be appropriate, but I think that it's perfectly appropriate here. And the new wood garage person door is a simple 6-panel. And there's some garage details. ADU door, also simple, compatible. There's that existing door that's getting replaced with a single light, tall light. All right, going through the standards and guidelines. From the Secretary of the Interior Standards, number 2 says the historic character of a property shall be retained and preserved. The removal of historic materials or alteration of features and spaces that characterize a property shall be avoided. Number 5 says distinctive features, finishes, and construction techniques or examples of craftsmanship that characterize a property shall be preserved. Number 6 says deteriorated historic features will be repaired rather than replaced. Where the severity of deterioration requires replacement of a distinctive feature, the new feature will match the old in design, color, texture, and where possible, materials. Replacement of missing features will be substantiated by documentary and physical evidence. Number 9 says new additions, exterior alterations, or new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. Number 10 says new additions and adjacent or related new construction will be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property and its environment would be unimpaired. From the Secretary of the Interior's guidelines for building site, it's recommended to retain the historic relationship between buildings, landscape features, and space. Building site recommended is designing new additions to historic buildings, which are compatible, or adjacent new construction, which are compatible with the historic character of the site and which preserve the historic relationship between the building and the landscape. Not recommended is introducing new construction which is visually incompatible in terms of size, scale, design, materials, color, and texture, or which destroys historic relationships on the site. I don't think that any of these are at issue at all on this application. For additions, it's recommended to construct a new addition so there's the least possible loss of historic materials, so that character-defining features are not obscured, damaged, or destroyed, and designing new additions in a manner that makes clear what is historic and what is new. From the guidelines for windows, it's recommended to design and install additional windows on rear or non-character-defining elevations if required by the new use. It's not recommended to remove or radically change windows which are important to define the character of the building, so that as a result, that character is diminished. And from the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines for additions to residential structures, it's appropriate to place new walls in a different plane from the historic structure in a subordinate position to the historic fabric. For doors, it's appropriate to replace a missing original or non-original door with a design that matches original doors remaining on the house, or with a compatible new design and material that fits the style and period of the house and the existing opening. from the design guidelines for lighting. It's appropriate when installing a new light fixture where there is no historic light fixture to use a fixture that is inconspicuous or complements the style of the resource. It didn't make it into the slideshow, but there are details in the application about light fixtures. And for residential accessory structures like garages and ADUs, it's appropriate to retain the historic relationship between buildings, landscape features, and open spaces, and to locate sheds and garages in the rear yard. It's also appropriate to use exterior wall and roof materials that are compatible with historic materials on the main structure and in the neighborhood. And to use a roof shape and pitch that replicates the shape and pitch of the roof of the main structure. And to use windows and doors that are compatible in proportion and style to the main structure and the neighborhood. All right, that is all of my slides. Staff does recommend approval of all of the different elements of this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners Kaplan and Smith were on the review committee. Will you please give us your report and recommendations?
Sure. I mean, one of the things that's obvious when you're looking at some of these, the site in proportion to some of the other lots in the neighborhood, it's significantly larger. I think there's no sense that the two additional new construction structures in any way overload or crowd this yard. It's got a bunch of room. So it looked like what they were proposing to put in there would fit just fine. The changes to the front of the house, removing the door, actually, I think, is a step in the right direction. It's not, it's an easy ask. And I think that, I think we both felt that augmenting the rear porch didn't really degrade the visual presence of the house at all.
I think I would add, Steve made the point that, when you're in that backyard, you're facing parking areas and in one case a dumpster and, it's everybody's back looking there. So all they see is people's, service areas. We think that, we were out there for a little while, but this is one of those ones that just wasn't like, they've done a very thoughtful job of putting together a package that respects the original historic character of the house. Like, I think we were not, the only thing we talked about was circular window, and I think one of the things that when people ask me, I'm always ask for what you want. And, I think neither of us felt very strongly that was a detriment to what you see on the back of the house or was concerning, understanding, the goal of getting more light onto that third floor. Like, it seemed completely reasonable to us. And, we just think it's going to be a nice improvement to a nice historic resource in the neighborhood.
Thank you. Would the applicant please come forward, provide your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes to speak if there's anything you'd like to add to what you've heard.
Sure. So my name is Jake Lupschutz. We currently live in Brooklyn at 208 Union Street, but obviously our home will be at 553 South First Street. And this is my wife, Leanne. So as I said, we live in Brooklyn today. We live in an old brownstone, and I think that's part of what has given us both the respect for and love for old historic buildings and has made us so attracted to and excited about potentially living in the Old West Side. We have had a growing family. We have a 3-year-old boy and a 1-year-old boy, and that's part of the reason why we've been thinking about leaving New York. We have family here, both on my wife's side and my side, so being in a neighborhood like the Old West Side and being closer to family is very appealing to us, as well as the ability to kind of keep some of the historic features of our home that we so enjoy today. So as you can see in the plans, there's obviously a bunch of some smaller and then on the interior, some larger changes we're planning to try and, help the house accommodate our family. But, with Michael and Alex, we've tried to be very thoughtful about how we've addressed those changes and make sure that it respects the historic nature of the house, the historic nature of the neighborhood, because again, that's part of what's appealing to us, and we want to be both respectful of that and maintain it. So, we're obviously happy to answer any questions, but it sounds like you guys have also spent time thinking about it, and we appreciate both your time tonight and your time at the site visit. But if there's anything we can address, we're obviously happy to do so.
Do we have any questions for the applicants? No? So I'd now like to, you can sit down until other things come up, if they do. I'd now like to open the public hearing for this item. This is an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes about this application at 553 South First Street. Public comment may be made in person or by calling 877-853-5247 or 213-338-8477 and entering meeting ID 978-640-4515. This information is also displayed on the meeting agenda and video feed. In order to electronically raise your hand after dialing into the meeting, please press 9 on your phone. Is there anybody on 9? No. Okay. So we'll close the public hearing and ask a commissioner to make a motion on this item.
I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 553 South First Street, a contributing property in the Old West Side Historic District, to construct a 52-square-foot rear addition with a balcony on top, replace the door to the balcony, infill one of 2 front doors, and replace the remaining door, remove an attic exhaust fan in the rear gable and replace it with a circular window, infill a second-floor rear window and install a new window nearby, infill a basement window under the front porch, install a backyard patio, and construct 2 new accessory structures. As proposed, the work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the building and the surrounding area, and it meets the Secretary of the Interior's standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular, standards 2, 5, 6, 9, and 10, and the guidelines for building site addition, roofs, and windows, as well as the Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines, in particular, the guidelines for additions, doors, lighting, and residential accessory structures.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Kaplan and seconded by Commissioner Smith. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay.
Wow.
Then, we are ready for a vote. All those in favor, say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, say no. Okay, your motion carries. Your application has been approved. Please note that you must receive all required permits from the city before beginning your project, and that the work and the permits must match what was approved by the Historic District Commission. Thank you. Okay. Okay, you don't have to stay for our business meeting. It's an open meeting, you're welcome to. But we will now move on to item G1, the design guidelines review. Ms. Thatcher.
That went so quickly that I'm not ready.
Yeah.
Efficient.
Yeah.
Sometimes they can be easy.
Well, a good application makes
Yes,
it easy.
Absolutely. Okay, so now we're going to move on to design guidelines. Last month, I introduced, actually, I opened the wrong one here. You're welcome, Michael. Last month, we introduced the introduction and gave you copies of it to edit, and I've just opened the wrong chapter, so let me get back in here and try this again. Tonight, we're going to go through that introductory chapter and see what comments you guys have made and see if you have any more to add. This is a short chapter, so I don't think it'll be too painful. So Mariana and I have heard that the wonky formatting gets worse when you open it in the web viewer version of Word. Like when I open it, it opens in real Word. So I apologize for that. If that's something that you absolutely can't work around, let me know. But if possible, we'd really like to avoid spending hours of staff time formatting something that we're going to change again. But if it's just a pain in the rear, we want to know about it.
I opened it in Real Word as well, and
Okay.
found formatting issues there. And
Yeah.
they're fine for me to look around, I didn't have any problem with it.
Yeah.
The only thing I was worried about is I didn't know, because I'm technologically crippled. if the changes I was making, like I moved a photograph, I moved the placeholder for the photograph to read the block of text behind it.
I see.
And I didn't know if I was making permanent revisions or suggested revisions to the text elsewhere. So I was like, oh, I hope I didn't screw it up for everybody else.
No, I think it's fine. The problem was the whole document is in InDesign, and so we had to translate it into Word, so everything got messed up. We're missing photos, things got shifted around, all of the fonts got changed. So once we get through the substance of the revisions, the actual words, then we'll probably have somebody else come in and we'll provide new pictures and captions and things like that, and they can do a better job of making something more compatible with words, that the next time we go through this, we don't have to reformat it yet again. But let me share my screen here. And just a sec, I will make this bigger. Kind of a lot going on. Okay, is that big enough? Can you read that okay?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to pause on all of these things for commissioners to think about, to see if you have any additional feedback on those. In this first chapter, please think about places where the images should be updated and captions should be changed. So I've already flagged a few that where the buildings have changed or they're just not the best photos. But if you have thoughts as we're going through this, let me know. If you're like, yeah, that doesn't really add anything to the conversation, or it's pretty, but whatever, we can talk about those. Dave Rockland says there are so many interesting photos of Ann Arbor's historic buildings. It would be great to use some of them. I would prefer to see them much bigger than the thumbnail sizes and have some of the best historic photos with a modern photo of the same location. That would actually be really cool.
Yeah. I wonder, do you want to open it up to people, the old Fourth Ward people clearly would have feelings about which pictures would be good to include. And Old West Side may also, but
We could.
I don't know if you want to open that can of worms.
I don't know. I think to get a wide range of different styles of buildings, I don't want to ask people for photographs and then not use them and have them feel bad for having
Yeah.
spent the time to provide them. But it is an interesting idea.
Well, I'm glad that you used a pencil sketch of Ray's front porch as opposed to the current reality, because the trim needs extensive repair.
Yeah, there are a few photos like that in here that just are outdated. All right, so think about photos as we move through here. I'll have to figure out if we should keep the original authors on here, or if on the update we don't do that. I just don't know the answer.
Well, you can wait and see how much it changes.
Yeah. Let's see. You can see where Mariana and I have just updated stuff. She went through and checked all the links. It's still a pain to have a website this long in here, but it's kind of the only way to do it. And if they're looking at a PDF document, it'll be a
Yeah.
hyperlink.
Yeah, there were at least one place, I'm assuming in the text, anytime there's a reference to an external source, we will include a link.
Yes.
Like it said
yes.
something about the SHPO definition of contributing structures.
Yes, absolutely. Oops. But I'm still going to put that down. Oh, why is it running me around? Okay,
Add links for all external references. Or add hyperlinks for all.
yeah, a lot of them were outdated, which is not surprising since this is from 2012. All right. Moving on.
Should you add verify just in case as well?
Pardon?
Should you say add and verify hyperlinks in case someone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll, the ones that Mariana has already changed are verified, but yeah. And we'll be sure to do that also at the very end,
yeah.
just before it gets
Yeah.
published.
Yes, they will change.
Yes, they may
Yeah.
change, yes. All right. The good news is the current page numbering is not like this. It's like section 1-1, page 1-3, and you can't jump to any pages, so
Yeah.
it'll be a modern format, and you'll be able to click on, oh, what I want is this chapter 6 line, and
Yeah.
it'll jump you to it, so that'll be nice. This is a new introduction, or a lot of this introduction is new, and Mariana wrote most of it. Oh, hang on, don't do that. We wanted to have it sound more current, and I think that in 2012, we were thinking about different issues related to preservation than we are in 2024. And it's not just about keeping things from changing and maintaining our property values. Now it's also about how can these properties change and still meet the standards? And
Be
what addition?
green.
Yeah, how can we be green? How can we add ADUs in the backyard like that last applicant? And how can we maybe get more dwelling units into historic districts? Historic districts are actually really good at increasing density, especially the Old Fourth Ward, because so many of those big houses have been chopped up into so many bedrooms and so many apartments that I really do want to do a density map of the different neighborhoods, because I'm pretty sure that the Old Fourth Ward is the
most
highest density in the
density,
city. Yeah, with the exception of like where an 18-story tower sits. It's hard to compete with that, but. Dave had some suggestions. Improvements like air sealing, insulating, and adding solar panels can be thoughtfully incorporated to reduce carbon emissions. I think that's a good one. He wanted to replace skyscrapers with mid-rise or high-rise, which definitely, we don't talk about skyscrapers in Ann Arbor. Chip says primarily, though not exclusively. Okay. Ann Arbor's
Yeah.
historic districts primarily, though not exclusively, comprise buildings with between 1 and 4 units. Yes, that's a good one. Okay, we got ahead of ourselves. So now we talk about the commission tax credits. This will all be updated because the tax credit program has
Good,
changed from
okay.
12 years ago.
Oh, good. One of my things was, we mentioned period of significance and certificate of appropriateness without defining them.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that made me think, though, that we never, and maybe this has been added, I haven't been able to get to it, the definition of what a historic district is and how it comes to be was not in there.
Yeah, okay.
And that's where I thought, well, you could certainly cover period of significance in that description.
Yes.
And that would be a
Let's put
good
that-
place where, instead of going into detail about 2/3 of the owners and blah, 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 you could
Yes.
link to the Park Service or wherever that appropriate
Yes. Okay,
detail
okay.
is. But we never say, this all has to do with historic districts, and this is what a historic district is.
Come to be, link to National Park Service. Definition of period significance. I don't
Yeah,
have
which
to
it
read
looked
this.
like it got added in there, but, and certificate of appropriateness were the two that I,
Oh, I'm sorry, that's the one that I meant to write. Certificate of
COA.
appropriateness. Obviously, I'm hoping that you'll just stop me if I'm running over something that you wanted to talk about more. Okay, here's our new definition of period of significance. And character defining features.
Oh, I was just, did you, in the tax credit thing,
Mhm.
when I had something that says, as of this writing, these are the tax credits available. These change over time, check this link.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Or, you know, do you want to change it when that changes?
Yes. And- Yep, that's good. Okay. Okay, applicability of the design guidelines. I know Dave had some additional items that he wanted to add here, alteration of a garage, addition of a new egress well, addition of new mechanical equipment. So
I think
these.
things like the solar panels,
Solar panels.
you know, the sort
yeah,
of green initiative stuff.
Yeah. So this was just a basic list that we started out with. I don't know if we really want to include everything there. I mean, we could make this the 45 most common items brought to the HTC.
Yeah.
Are there any that, these are the really obvious ones, I think.
Yeah, that's why I think it's
Additions, new
good to
buildings.
include things that people might not think were things they had to get approval for, like solar panels,
And I also think that
egress windows in the basement. that
point
kind of-
out that replacement windows and doors are exterior work. Believe it or not, I have to tell people that. Okay. There's not much on this page. Who uses the design guidelines? How they work with other regulations? And how to use these design guidelines. This is just a little matrix of what happens, what you have to follow when you do work. I'm not sure how helpful this is, but I don't see a reason to take it out in case it helps somebody.
Would it be helpful to include at the beginning of the how to use these guidelines, to include something that took them to the link that talked about the process and where you get your application? And
Yes. And I don't think that should be a link, but I think we should describe how to get to there.
Okay.
Because those links do change kind of regularly. Yes. Where did my comment go? Oh, I see. All right, well. My add a comment just, okay, duh. Describe how to get to okay. Good. And that's it. So, any other questions? Any other comments, more importantly? What will happen with these now is, next week I'll go through and compile everything that everyone has said and still track the changes in the document and make available sort of a final draft version.
Okay.
Great.
And if we think of things, 4 months from now that ought to go in the introduction, we can just add them in. And then, do you guys want to see that sort of final draft version like next month? Or do you want to wait until we've gone through everything and then see a final draft complete document?
See you next month. That sounds more digestible.
Okay.
And will it be, having not been able to get through SharePoint yet,
Yeah.
will it be, when we're reviewing, Chapter 2, will Chapter 1 and intro be available to us or not?
They will.
Okay.
They will still be at the same links. And we hopefully can send out the new chapter and then send out also the old chapter with its edits, edited chapter. So you could look at both.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about looking at something, thinking, oh, wait, did we ever talk about that in the, to go back and make sure things are consistent?
Yeah. I will need to keep the chapters distinct,
Mhm.
but that's a good point, and I will add that to the comments here. I also want to find out if there's just a better way to do this, because it seems like everyone has had problems of a different nature getting into this document and editing it. They're all unique.
It's just a screwy thing when you're, going through SharePoint and have track changes on and,
Yeah.
it's just not ever going to show up clean, even if you're in Word, you just have to do the best we can and.
Yeah. But I will talk to some more people and see if there's, a Dropbox that we can all access or something like that, that might be a little more straightforward. We'll see. I'll let you know. Anything else on this introductory chapter? Okay. You can always give me more comments later. And next up is the next assignment is Chapter 1. Mariana sent that out a day or two ago. And same drill. If you can go through ahead of time and make comments, great. We will also go through it at the meeting, just like we did today. And onward and upward.
So what you're saying is we should bring lots of comments, so when she gets back from Australia at the beginning of December, there's just a million things in her inbox?
Well, I'm doing this month, so, yeah, maybe she will get next month. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so that is it for this item.
Okay. Moving on to G2, Report of Nominating Committee. Commissioner Ross.
Oh, okay. So if I have a report as much as, it sounds like Commissioner Calderon has accepted or would like to throw his hat in the ring for the secretary, as well as for the vice chair, Commissioner Fortner, and for the chair, David?
So with that following slate of candidates, is there any discussion? And you better be ready to volunteer.
Thank you for doing it.
No worries.
Okay. So we need to move on to a vote. All in favor of this slate of candidates, say yes.
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 Opposed, say no. The motion carries.
All right, thank you, officers.
Should have just checked your email earlier, Ben.
Like 2 hours before.
I saw that one. I was like, oh.
Deflect.
Okay, we will move on to H1, approval of the minutes. Were they attached? I didn't.
They should
My
have been.
version didn't have minutes attached.
I see
No
a
link.
here.
It said there were, but there was no link. Did anybody else get minutes for the October minutes?
I did not see that.
Actually, yeah.
That's a good question.
Okay, if you
But I'm
couldn't get
looking at the
into
hard
that,
copy of
then
it.
we'll just.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to look, it didn't, there was
The
no,
link didn't work.
yeah.
Okay. I guess then that there are no minutes for this month, and we will add those minutes to next month's agenda.
Okay. Moving on to item I, would any commissioner like to make a report? Okay. Moving on to J1, assignments for the next review committee, which will be Monday, December 9th, or the Thursday, December 12th meeting.
Hold
I think I can
just
do
a
it.
second.
Okay.
I can be there.
Okay, then we have myself and Steve.
Oh, Steve, you can do it? Great, thank you.
So, item K, any reports from staff?
No reports from staff. Oh, I guess I should update you on the Old Fourth Ward survey. The consultant sent somewhat, backing up a little bit farther, Mariana and I went out and walked a bunch of the Old Fourth Ward and found that a lot of the information was incorrect. As I suspected, the people who wrote up the survey forms looked at the photographs that had been taken rather than the notes being taken as they walked the neighborhood. So a lot of it was just wrong. You know, materials were wrong, window styles and types were wrong. And the consultant who, the project manager who joined midstream of this project was horrified and sent somebody out to rewalk and redo all the survey cards, and they're working on that right now. So they're going to make it right.
Yep. They got their money.
That's it from staff.
Okay, L, concerns of commissioners? Anybody with concerns? I don't think there's any, communications?
Nope, no communications.
Okay. In that case, I adjourn this meeting at 7:54, which might be a record.
I was going to say, we should stage a coup. You need to be the chair now. We're out of here.